hormonal pattern is our buffer, our daily systematic way that we understand how seasons are and how our day should flow based on our physiology is our buffer. It creates buffer, it creates resilience, it creates strength and courage and endurance and optimism.
The medical establishment here that we've deemed to be the allopathic medical model is the authority, and everything else is quackery. That was like 118 years ago. It's crazy. And it still has a massive influence over our society. I mean, probably 90% of people are still stuck in that kind of that trap, that mindset. It's really amazing to meet people like you who've peeled themselves out of it.
What I have seen in the last 7 years is each person improves their neurotransmitters by 1% per day. So in 99 days, they're 100% better from where they are. If this is on board, then suddenly all the energy starts being aligned. Their money starts flowing in their life, love starts flowing in their life, they become more motivated.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unreasonable Health. And it's Regan here. And today we're going to be diving deep into the world of integrated medicine. We're going to cover topics that are wide-ranging from Eastern to Western medicine, some of the new therapeutics that are available, with a good friend of mine who I met in Cabo recently, Dr. Achint Choksy. And he's a medical doctor. He's got his family medicine board certified. He specializes in treating patients from 0 to 100 plus years. And he received his bachelor's from Ohio State University with honors. And then also he earned his medical degree from Avalon University with summa cum laude. He finished his family medicine residency training at Wright State University and now specializes in integrated medicine, anti-aging medicine. But the thing that you're going to love about Dr. Ace is he combines more natural, herbal, functional, nutritional medicine. He was teaching the yoga classes at this medical conference that he and I met at, and he takes a truly holistic and preventative and personalized care approach. So, Dr. Ace, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Reagan. Appreciate the introduction. It was great meeting you. For sure. Or Cabo, it was just a meeting of great minds.
Yeah, it was so fun. And you're doing some really amazing things in your practice. But how did you, I mean, I know I'd love to hear your story about, coming from India, but how did you open up your mind to so many different varieties of medicine?
So growing up, I mean, I was 12 when I moved here, but then going through residency, there was one dying question that, I'm there to help people. I want to solve a puzzle. And after you run through, many, many patients during residency and you realize, I'm still going to see the same person after 30 years of taking them for diabetes, and they might still have diabetes and rheumatoid. And it's just a degenerative decline. All the curves, all the brain powers, everything we're talking about was all about declining and just maintaining patients. And there was really only few docs around the world and maybe few sectors, some places there were, we have stories like Clinton, right? President Clinton reversing heart disease after meeting and going plant-based and all kind of stuff, right? So we have these stories, and we have some great doctors, but there was nothing that systematically there. So then I started looking into it, and obviously there's systematic approaches. People have academies and other institutions, and people have done that, whether it's A4M, whether it's acupuncture school, whether it's an integrative functional medicine. So I just found a avenue where I could just open my mind and ask questions to say, hey, if there's day, there's night. If there's up, there's down. If there's good, there's evil. And if the disease can come, then it can go away, especially with the thought that every 5 years we completely replace ourselves. So if we're replacing ourselves, then all I have to do is put in the right ingredients, and the old cells will die. The new cells will be made from the new ingredients and the resources that we were using. So that was the thought that I had, and just going from one place to another, and I've always wanted to be essentially a man of my words, meaning I wanted to have convictions in the things that I say, because people put trust in you. And I look at myself, if I go to somebody and if they don't have confidence, if they don't have trust in their own words, and if there is a little bit of that vibrational stuttering going on, shaking, incoherence, then you can feel it subconsciously that, hey, look, I don't know if I really trust this guy. I don't know if the outcomes are still going to be there. And then when you merge the ancient sciences, and then the more obviously, you're into it. And when you look at all the ancient stuff, then you realize, hey, we got to put our egos aside as medical docs and try something. If it's working, then keep doing it without having more egos about it. Because I'm trained evidence-based, scientific, my brain is pharmaceutical, right? In my bachelor's was pharmaceutical sciences, and then going into medicine. So my training is that. But then having this understanding that there is a whole unknown world, especially when you look at last 30 years of research and 60 years of research in medical science, where they'll recommend one thing and then new research comes out and then it's debunked, right? Saturated fats, worst thing on the planet. Now it's like, no, it's kind of actually good. It decreases mortality in people as long as they're not oxidized. So then,
right. Caveats.
Those are like half truths or and partial truths that we operate with just because of certain clinical trials at that point in time may have shown some things, but I felt like it was giving me too much ego, putting in trust, blind faith in a certain way of operating in conventional realm, and just disregarding and poo-pooing everything else in the world. And, I look at people and I say, okay, hey, like, God made you and God made me, right? So if we're all created in the same image, we have that, we resemble, we emit, we vibrate at that same frequency at some level, our spirits are there, then it was kind of hard to disrespect other modalities of care. And as a provider with power, I guess, and people put us, especially having MD, like you get put on pedestal, and whether it's systematically done or whatever, like we can go into that rabbit hole. But somehow at this point, there is certain power that comes with that degree. Sure. So if we misuse that power because we are committing that same sin that Jesus died for, and we disrespect other people and not look at everybody in that same image, then I feel like, it would be a waste of time on this planet in a way, because we only have 30, 40, 50, maybe 60 years of, 4 to 6 decades of work, depending on how much we do. And if we end up doing the right thing and learning all this, it is a science, right? Like I always understood that, hey, if there's a mechanism of action for a drug, then there's a mechanism of action for acupuncture. There's a mechanism of action for prayers, and there's a mechanism of action for food, and there's a mechanism of action for, all the, whether it's Reiki or there, we can go in all these different realms. There's a mechanism of action. Just because somebody hasn't proven it doesn't mean I can't figure that out, right? Yoga has mechanism of action. Right? There's a specific way it works, and it changes the hormones. If you do one pose a certain way, it changes the hormones a certain way. You can do the same pose differently, and it changes the hormones differently. Same pose, just done differently. So like same thing with breath work. Like inhale, exhale, but how you do it, how long you do it, when you do it, what time of the day you do it, what season of the day you do it, doing it before and after eating, doing it before after sleeping, like everything matters, and which direction you do it, right? Sleeping versus looking in the east. I mean, that matters, you know.
Yeah.
At what elevation you sit and do it, that matters. So
Right.
like there's a huge aspect of like stacking, right? I mean, that's the concept that we talk about with peptides and all of that. So it's like, you got to the healthcare is supposed to be stacked.
Yeah.
It's one method. Each method has their pros and cons,
Yeah.
but if we stack it, then I think it works.
I couldn't agree more. And have you read the Flexner report?
Yeah.
Look, like if you look at the origins of,
I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read it. Like I've read.
do you understand the concept?
Yeah.
Is basically like, hey, the medical establishment here that we've deemed to be the allopathic medical model is the authority, and everything else is quackery. And that was, I think it set our country. I mean, that was 1905. So that was,
Yeah.
that was like 118 years ago. It's crazy. And it
Yeah.
still has a massive influence over our society. I mean, probably 90% of people are still stuck in that kind of that trap, that mindset. And it's really amazing to meet people like you who've peeled themselves out of it. That's what happened to me. Is I got really sick in my undergraduate work. I just thought medicine was the way, and you become an MD. Everything else is like irrelevant. And then I was misdiagnosed by 5 MDs, and I was like, well, this medicine doesn't really work. It didn't help me. Then I went to a naturopathic doctor who is also an acupuncturist who ran the right labs and was like, oh, you've got Hashimoto's, you've got an autoimmune disease. And I was like, finally, someone gave me some answers. And then, but I also got a strategy that went along with it that helped me feel better. And I started performing better. And then I realized that there's a whole nother world out there. So if you look at kind of the foundation for healing, because it's fascinating the way you look at it, what would you say the kind of the core tenets of the disease process are? Like, what would you say, where do people start to get in trouble with their health?
So I feel like most people don't understand. Let me think about this. So when we look at how life schedule is economically, physically, since the day we were born, essentially, because this is all starting at a programming level, right? Because I do believe there are programs that we operate with. So how our parents have taught what has happened to their life and solutions that they couldn't find, normally the kids will behave with that solution. If mom wanted love, the kids will go out and get lots of love because she couldn't get it. That was the program. So that programming it needs to be understood, number one, at a physical, mental level. Then as we go through life, the economies of the world, what has happened is the days have been structured opposite to our physiology.
Yeah.
So this is where I think most people go wrong, because we have pushed everything up front during the daytime. As soon as we wake up and we go, school starts in the morning, work starts in the morning, and then after 5 o'clock we go for family dinner.
Yeah.
I've grown up a little bit opposite, where we had family breakfast, and then I went to school at like 11 in India growing up, and then came home at 6 instead of coming home at 3 or 5, like I came home at 5:36. So that was kind of ancient way of doing this. Like if you go back to ancient schools from 300, 400, 500 years ago, and even more past, you can see how the monks used to treat their disciples. I mean, I'm talking about those schools in Buddhism and Hinduism and ancient ways where the mornings were designed in a lot more peaceful way. And then as the sun goes up during the daytime, your work constantly goes up. And then as it goes down, it goes down. And
Yeah.
then after, so I feel like that's one of the biggest way where most of us have been essentially systematically reprogrammed, because from the cultural programming of how our brain works and how what kind of thoughts we have, what kind of emotions we have, to understanding how the pregnancy works, to understanding how economies have essentially scheduled us completely differently, and that's related to our healthcare. So when nowadays it's, people, you look at, like, people know, right? I mean, compared to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I grew up and you grew up, like, now we have internet, people know about integrative things, people know about functional things, and there's always one more thing to do. Organic food, okay, water, okay, exercise, okay. It's like one more thing. So it becomes overwhelming. But all of this started where all of it, all of these other things affect us the most if we don't have the buffer, right? I can drink a non-filtered water, and I can drink filtered and distilled water, but both of them, they will have certain effect on me. But if I don't have the buffering inside me, my ability, my internal human potential isn't optimized because of programming. And what is that?
It's the Zoom update. There you go. Celebration.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Did not know that. So yeah, so the programming that we have, if based on it's like sleep, right? If you don't sleep well, you're gonna have a really less buffer. You're gonna get tired much more faster. You're gonna get sick much faster. It's not gonna give you buffer. And
Yeah.
same thing, like our hormonal pattern is our buffer. Our daily systematic way that we understand how seasons are and how our days should flow based on our physiology is our buffer. It creates buffer, it creates resilience, it creates strength and courage and endurance and optimism. When the buffer goes down, that optimism goes down, the dopamine goes down, right? I mean, this is all about dopamine at the end of the day. Without dopamine, everything just slowly just trickles down, because it's a domino effect. If you're not motivated, if there is no optimism, then eventually, like, things just go down. So those are kind of the things that I see all the time. So when I'm treating patients, when I'm looking at them, I'm looking at it from, hey, let's understand your physiology, then understand what are the pathogens and toxins, and then let's match let's create a protocol that optimizes brain first and then body second.
Tell me about that. Yeah.
So you think about this, right? Like, how many 20-year-olds are extremely motivated? More percentages than 40-year-old, right? Like, if 80% of 20-year-olds are motivated to do something, are 80% of 40-year-olds motivated to do something?
Yeah, it depends on the thing, right? Yeah.
It depends on the thing, but the same amount of enthusiasm that we had, we can run through 3 hours, 4 hours of basketball at 20. We can't do that at 40. And emotionally, the midlife is there. And then there's a lot more. Like, if you look at all the symptoms of dopamine, for example, a little bit of tiredness, a little bit of stiffness, a little bit of fatigue. I mean, if it's completely low, then it's totally low, right? Chronic fatigue, pain, spasms, muscle aches, spasticity, sugar cravings, procrastination, inability to get tasks done. Like, it would be like shit hitting the fan. But what if it's 20% low? And if you're only 20% below your optimal capacity at 40? At 45, what if it's 30% low? At 50, what if it's at 40% low? You're not going to think that whole decade, your ability to do things at the efficiency at which your brain operates has continuously gone down. Most people chuck it up to aging, that it's okay. I've had a good last 20 years. I've lived a good, I've raised my kids, and now I'm a little bit older. My body has degenerated, and it's okay to degenerate. But all of it boils down to how well the brain is motivated. Like, if you're motivated enough to do all the things in the world the way you did at 20, 25, then even at 50, you can do it. You and I both know people who do it. And we're aiming for that as well, that, hey, at 50, I should be able to do everything that I did at 25. And that's all about.
That's where you start on the brain.
That's where you start on the brain first. So if I have to convince a patient to do a intense protocol in the integrative world, then you know how intense it can be with supplements, peptides, all the biohacking gadgets and everything. If I'm trying to convince that to somebody, one, they have to have a lot of education, learning curve, a lot of money, like all of those things have to be there in order for them to even comprehend that crazy protocol that they need to be on for the next 3 to 5 years to be able to anti-age completely. And that's not the norm. Like, that's not the average person. So average person, it doesn't have the executive IQ, that they're not motivated like the executives are. So the average person, we have to address their brain. So if I have to do 10 hours of work to convince an average person to do something, it would take me 1 hour to convince you. You would get it, right? Hey, okay, let's go do this. So the reason why I only have to do 1 hour work to convince you is because your capacity, your dopamine, your serotonin, your neurotransmitters are already high. So if I do the same exact thing for a normal person, when they come in, let's evaluate your neurotransmitters. Let's figure out where we can help you. So what I have seen in the last 7 years is each person improves their neurotransmitters by 1% per day. So in 99 days, they're 100% better from where they are, right? From where they are, they're 100% better from this perspective. If this is on board, then suddenly all the energy starts being aligned. Their money starts flowing in their life. Love starts flowing in their life. They become more motivated. It's that whole concept of aligning, being able to, whether you call it manifestation or being in alignment, like with your goal, with your vision of your life. If you can foresee it, you can foreshadow it, then universe starts to talk to you and gives you opportunities to make that happen. So that's what I see in patients. The patients come in with a goal. Goal is to reverse, let's say, leaky gut and chronic fatigue. But if this is not there, then they can't even visualize the outcome. If you can't visualize the outcome and you're always worried, then what we fear is what we manifest. Like, the brain sees what we fear instead of what we don't fear, right? If I say I don't want to die, then I'm going to see death in my brain. Even though I'm asking for life, it's hard for me to visualize life when I'm constantly worrying about death. If I'm constantly worrying about, because the brain is image oriented, it's all image. Anything we say, brain converts it into an image. So even though you want something else, you can't get there. So I look at that in my patients and I say, okay, well, you're here. You want to go here. Like, you want to go to point B and you're at point A, but you have to be able to see it. So when you ask those questions to those patients, they'll tell you, right? It's quite easy. They'll just tell you, oh, I'm having some worries. I have so many issues. I have this in my life and that in my life and blah, blah, blah. As soon as they start talking about all of those things, you kind of know that they have a hard time visualizing the outcome. Like, there are 10 scenarios of the future, and one they die and the other one they succeed, right? And they constantly talk about more closer to death than success. Then they're setting their frequency of the brain, the radio channel of their brain, to that outcome. So out of the infinite possible scenarios, how do you get stuck on the negatives? Because that's what makes people fearful. And instead of the positive scenarios that we want to get stuck on, right? So like the CEO mentality, the exec mentality is like, hey, I want this outcome in 1 year or in 4 quarters or in 12 quarters. I want this outcome and I'm stuck to it. Do or die, right? Rain or shine. This has to happen. So they're sticking to that scenario of future, and they might hit it 80% of the time, and that's okay. But it's they're hitting 80% of the time instead of they're hitting 20% of the time, right? Like it's this life is better when you hit your goals more often than not, and what you're able to visualize and stick to. So that's kind of the thing that I see in people, that when they come and sit in front of me, they want to have root cause analysis done, they want to have a protocol, and they want to see, but we have to decode them, like psychologically, essentially give them a different programming.
Yeah.
And you can't do that without upgrading their RAM memory, you know?
Yeah. So, you and I are both big fans of peptides. Are there different peptides that you found to be helpful as far as getting the neurotransmitters replenished, just upgrading people's mindsets and thinking around health?
So here it goes, right? C-Lank, C-Max, BPC, lorazepatide.
Yeah. Okay.
Once you do those three, it's a different world in 3 months, because you know all the pathways, how all of them work, and regardless of who they are, most people need lorazepatide, just because of how it works in the gut and what it can do.
Yeah, getting rid of some of the sugar cravings and getting them over some of those impulsive behaviors. I think it's massive. Tell me about C-Lank. Have you found that people just notice more creativity, or what have you found in your clients who've used that one?
Oh, that's funny. So most people say that they've felt more happy, balanced, and if they're an elite performers, because I have some, and executives and those type of people, and martial artists, they essentially talk about opening up a different sensory perception.
Fascinating.
It's like, I think it works on somewhere in one of the chakras level, where you're able to perceive and do things differently. So I think there is that benefit. Obviously, it works on neurons and essentially retraining them and helping them regenerate a little bit better. But I think people don't tell me that. Their responses back to me are, "Hey, I'm way faster. I can sense things way better. Like my shooting abilities and my range is like, I'm hitting the target more often now because I can perceive 2 miles down the road where that target is, and they're able to hit that." Or, I mean, 2 miles is a long time, but 50 yards, 100 yards, wherever they're shooting. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like, I have a couple rangers, like those guys who shoot discs, right? The flying discs.
Yep.
And they're able to hit that way more. Like, and it's kind of weird, yeah, what they perceive the peptide to do for them. So
yeah, skeet shooting. That's interesting. So women tend to have a better aim than men.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if maybe you know this, but because C-Lank is, it's a GABAergic peptide. It's upregulating like 21 genes that, express GABA in the brain. But I wonder if women have more GABA, and maybe GABA helps them relax just a little more so they can be more focused, more present on the shot. What do you think the mechanism of action is?
Well, I think it's, in my opinion, I'm not looking at it from a neurological perspective, like directly from a neurological perspective, where it's like slowing them down because it's GABAergic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that it's turning on those genes and more that allows them to essentially decalcify their pineal gland.
Mm.
That's what I'm thinking, because some of their perceptive abilities and some of those things that people have told me are not at a cortical level. I think they're part of the inner brain where the both hemispheres connect. So if you're able to see the, the connection between the two hemispheres connect much more, then the analytical and the creative brain, the physical and the etheric brain, essentially, in a way, connects much more easily. So that's the center midbrain that's turning on. So I don't think of it from a GABA perspective, although yes, we can say that parasympathetic tone, if you increase it, whether it's from GABA or breathworks or any one of these things. I mean, just taking Copacom, I mean, it's pretty much GABA, right? I mean, in a liquid form, that's more than enough if we want that kind of an effect. But I think the peptides are doing something a little bit more than just those 21 genes that they're talking about. Sure. Because I think it's going a little bit deeper in there. And then the other aspect is, like, I also think that when they go to sleep, the vasodilatory effect of the blood at night, the flushing out effect that happened in the brain of the plasma, I think that is better when they're on these peptides. So then they're able to detox a little bit much easier than and I think that has to do with the type of protein that surrounds the capillaries and how easily they are able to vasoconstrict and vasodilate and bring in enough amount of essentially plasma leakiness to the brain to clean out. So I think that's what's happening. But I mean, people like the GABA effect. I mean, that's sure. I mean, it's there. I can't argue against it. But that shouldn't be the only, like, that doesn't make sense in terms of all the benefits that they're getting. Sure. Because the benefits are they're connecting both of their brains together much more faster. Like, the both hemispheres are connecting way faster. Mm-hmm. They're becoming, like, some of these people are becoming almost ambidextrous. Like, that shouldn't happen, but they are faster. Right?
Wow. Well, and I've noticed similar things. If I use it in the afternoon, far more creative, more open, just makes for a really good evening. So I think there's a lot to be said there. So if you look at kind of like the biggest thing when you're treating someone's brain, are you using neurofeedback, or what other modalities are you using?
Yeah, I have not used neurofeedback, but most of the time when people tell me a quantifiable way of whatever that they're doing is getting better, so I do ask them to journal a lot. Like, there's a whole Google sheet and things that we create to make sure that they are able to write down their outcomes. So if they're an athlete, it's pretty easy. There's some sort of a way, whether they're running or playing basketball or football, there's a way to measure, just look at the statistics and see what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So that helps me the most easiest way. Yeah. I have looked at the antibodies and the neurotransmitters that affect the brain. Things like the anti-GABA and dopamine, and like there are tons of antibodies and the HSV infections and those kind of things. And 9 out of 10 times they go down. So then we know that the inflammation is down. Mm. So those are basics. Like, that's all I've done. Now, if I do recently I was looking into the EEG to really see where their brain waves are and how they are before and after the treatment. So I could do that, but I haven't needed to in the last 7 years. So I haven't actually gone into doing all of those things. There is, yeah, I mean, there is a certain amount of journaling and certain amount of work that they have to do to reply, give that back to me so that I understand, hey, things are improving, things are getting better. And if that's working, then I try not to change a lot of things, make it simple for them.
Yeah.
But I've gone so many times back and forth about doing neurofeedback. And I mean, there are other assessment scores, right? I mean, we have, they're so one way or shape or form, they're all surveys, right? I mean, you're assessing them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a Cambridge test and there's a bunch of them, but, and I was just curious to see what modalities you're using. So if you look at, I want to shift gears just a little bit and talk about your really cool platform, because what we haven't talked about today is the fact that Dr. Ace created a whole platform called Ace My Health, and you can go to acemyhealth.us. But the great thing about this is Dr. Ace, you see that there's this collective energy that we can have as a group of healers who really want to transform healthcare in America. And so I'd love to hear what triggered the inception of this community called Ace My Health, and what are some of the things inside of that community that you've created?
All right. So this is so interesting. So this is my passion in a way, because I call the ACE the process, right? The affirm, confirm, experience. So ACE, just like the way it says in Philippians 6, 7, and 8. Don't be anxious, make a petition in thanksgiving. And that's A, affirmation. C is Philippians 7, where when God gives you peace and understanding, protect your heart and mind. So don't become egoistic and understand that it is already given to you. So that's C, confirmation of your results or affirmations. And E, the experience, is when you're experiencing what is true and eternal. You might get the Ferrari and the health outcome that you want, but what are you experiencing is the true, the eternal, the praiseworthy, the kind, the lovely, what's admirable and what's beyond the materialistic realm. And those are essentially, you're experiencing the quality of God, right? Quality of all the qualities of God. So that's the ACE process: affirm, confirm, experience, essentially anything you want. Now, Ace My Health is that community of all divine people, essentially, and holistic practitioners. We're sharing our gifts. So I have certain things that I say all the time. You have certain things that you say all the time. So we're bringing all of these holistic practitioners who are actually practicing, and by invitation only. We're bringing them together to have them share their know-how. So I've shared things on the platform about essential oils and my foundation course on how to unlock your 10 senses instead of 5. Dr. Herzog, she's doTERRA's medical board. She does her foundational functional healing and detox course. There's Dr. Tato Wokaitis. He talks about how intentions and lasers and all kind of things that can help heal ourselves and our body. And we have gardening and earthing, like actual farming, medical farming, essentially what I call a precision gardening for your health. So we teach those things to patients that match the earth and the planet. There is reflexology, there are acupuncturists. There's a Dr. Yang. He's a world-renowned acupuncturist. He goes out to all kind of universities. He's right next to my office, literally. And cool. I get those sessions every week on myself. Nice. Yeah, it's one of those things I've done this whole entire year. Being religious at it. Every week I'm there just to see what my experience would become in acupuncture. And, I do a lot of yoga and teach a lot of nutrition. So all of those classes are there because then the goal of that platform is to be connected with all of these docs. We're going to throw conventions every year, every 6 months. starting next year. And you would be able to get access to all that knowledge. With the knowledge, it becomes a platform of trusted knowledge and providers. And today I feel, so I started this 2 years ago, and it started out of a need where patients kept telling me, they're like, hey, doc, we don't have anywhere to go. Where do we go to find, right trusted providers? They're there everywhere, but everybody's trying to do their own thing, and we don't know who to trust and where to go. So this came out of that need, but it became it also solved another problem where I charge, a certain amount of money per hour. Patients were paying me to learn that same knowledge per hour. Now they can learn all of that knowledge plus all the knowledge of all the other practitioners for extremely reasonable price. So we're essentially creating this platform. There's Skillshare and there's Maven, and there are plenty of those kind of things out there, Mind Valley, but this is something for healthcare practitioners and who are connecting the East and West, like yourself, right? This is the place where people must practice these kind of things without ego, where we go above just the physical realm of functional medicine. You have to go into the, into the mental and astral realms of, our health. And these people are doing that. And I felt, you were doing that. And I felt many other practitioners in Cabo are doing that. And all of us are, to some degree, fighting a battle on an island. So this is an educational platform, and you can put it in. When I share this platform to my patients in my programs, I'm exposing them to everybody else, right? It automatically, they see you, they see Herza, Dr. Herza, they see all the other practitioners, and they all have friends and family in those cities. It's not like we live in just one of our little Cincinnati area, right? Everybody lives everywhere. So it becomes a very collaborative approach, and it's a community. The aspect is it's not just about the course. I teach things, it becomes a course, but I'm there live. Like, that's where the money is, right? Like, so my patients wanted to stay connected with me on a weekly basis or every other week basis. And it gives them an opportunity to, share and learn, ask questions, learn from other people, because other people ask questions as well. And the conversations in the last 2 years have been insane. Like, the questions, and people just learn things. And then it's a community, so they're all on Telegram. I put them together in Ace My Health Telegram community. And so they all help each other out, and it becomes a group of just divine people. It's not, in the community, it's not about practitioner, it's not about anybody. It's just that, hey, you are a person who has something to share, and people help each other go out shopping and produce shopping and things like that. It's been crazy. People, it's a really unique community, and they're everywhere, all over the U.S. So it's something that it came out of that need to solve a puzzle for the patients. That yes, there are other practitioners, there are other places where we can get conventional knowledge, but maybe this becomes a source of pretty cool library, knowledge bank, and then solves a puzzle, and it helps people to know you when you're live. It's really not about the course. Like, everybody told all of my clients who are on that, or members who are on the platform, they like it because I'm there. Like, most of them aren't even watching the videos after, because I can see who watched what, right? Like, once you become on the back end, I get to see, are you actually watching it? Are you paying a monthly membership for watching this? Right. They're not like, nobody has time to watch thousands of hours of videos after it gets recorded. But now they have access to me. They will have access to you or Dr. Herzog and Dr. Todd. And it's like, whoa, these are doctors that's very hard to get hold of. And now we have access to them. And at least we can ask a question or post a question and somebody will answer that. So people post those questions and it becomes, it's like another family of just like-minded people. So it's been really cool. So that's where now we're going to throw a convention next year or a conference, one of those, and we'll make it live so people can attend in person and do it virtually. And the idea is for practitioners to share what they want to share. And it becomes one marketing tool. I mean, for us practitioners, how many times are we spending, money for every little thing to market ourselves? And if we are helping create this, then it becomes a one marketing tool. So.
Yeah. And I like how it's just so you guys know, there's 7 days, the first 7 days, no cost for that, but then it's like $5.97 a month. Like, I mean, nothing. I mean, it's a Starbucks coffee.
Yeah. So one of the courses, like, it's that, and then at the end of the day, like, we'll make it in a way where it becomes, extremely inexpensive. As you said, right?
Yeah,
like,
you already have, which is awesome. Yeah, and I like it how because so many of my clients that love essential oils, and so just the fact that they have just you can jump into some of the deepest wisdom when it comes to essential oils. And I know Dr. Ace, you've done a lot of research, and the right oils from the ones that aren't necessarily as the quality is not there. So, so for those of you who use oils, just to use them in the right way, it's phenomenal. From, you're a medical doctor. Dr. Herzog is an MD as well, and she's deep into the doTERRA oils. And so I think it's a great platform that you've created. And then as far as the live access goes, that's what we found in our community as well. Like once a week, we have what we call our hacks, our health accelerator challenge. And so this would be a great platform for me to, we can just be live right there and have both platforms operating simultaneously. And I think it'll be really fun for everybody, because it's, I'm like you, it's like, hey, the more we can just get the right information out and help people see that there's a different way of helping their body heal. That's it. We really are. It's a movement, and so the
market talks, right? People talk, and the market, the way that they behave, that's the answer. And I think we just have to stay united and get that info out to some degree, and create this protocol, create this pathway of hope. And profitability. Like, I mean, if I look at the past 500 years, why were all the decisions made the way they were made? Like, forget all the evil things, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about business. People make decisions at the end of the day to have profit at the bottom line. At the end of the year, this makes money, this doesn't, this decision wins.
Yep.
And it has nothing to do with like Satan,
No,
maybe. Maybe it does for some people.
It's capitalism. Did you add value? Yeah.
Yeah, for some people it might, but for most people it's just capitalism. So if we can create this, and I think together, and of like-minded people like you and others that and I know, I think it becomes, there's an opportunity to help and create something interesting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and we've got there's just so many amazing things and so many paths we can go down. So we definitely are going to have to do this again. And like I mentioned, what's that?
What's your peptide protocol?
Oh, right now, let's see. This morning I did tesamorelin, ipamorelin, MOD-SC, SS31. And then I did CMAX. Actually, you brought that up. And then I did some Neuro NAD. And then last night I did DSIP.
Yeah. Oh, I like that one too. That's that's really cool.
Yeah.
It builds up over time. Like it gives you the benefit after a little bit of time. But
Yeah. And I found that in dosing it, for certain people, you want to start small and then slowly build up. Some people can get a little bit, they can feel a little groggy if they overdo
mm,
it on DSIP, but
yeah,
it's like you just feel really clean and like you feel happy. It's a
yeah.
great peptide.
Yeah, yeah, I'm super conservative in all of my approaches, although it doesn't sound like that. But I would agree with you. Going slow and steady is the way to do it.
Absolutely, man. Well, this has been phenomenal, Dr. Ace. If you had kind of one piece of wisdom you could share is in closing,
Mhm.
you give our audience, what would that be?
Do you want something practical or philosophical?
I really like your philosophical perspectives. I think they're fascinating.
All right, so the philosophical perspective is this. We don't need a bubble of positivity.
Mm,
We need a laser of positivity because a laser light, a photon of light, travels miles away from here. From a little laser light can shine all the way to the airplane that's going over there. And that little thing has maybe a AAA battery, maximum, maybe, but it goes that far. But a light bulb like this one, it can only cover maybe 20, 30 feet. It doesn't go that far, but this one is way more powerful and eats up so much more energy, but doesn't go. So our intention, our spiritual self is the light self. It is the power source. It is literally the light. And wherever our intention and our focus goes, that's where the light will go like a laser beam. And when the
mm,
light goes there, the light is traveling and it hits at this little electron, and this electron is spinning around a proton. When a light goes into the electron absorbs this energy and goes into a higher valence state. So light is intention. Intention is carrying our light like a laser. Wherever it goes, that's where it interacts with matter particle.
mm.
So if you can follow that line of thinking,
Oh yeah.
that laser precision approach to fine tuning your scenario, right? What scenario out of millions of scenarios, possibilities that are available, pick one because that's where the laser is going to go. I don't need to shine light on all of them.
Yeah.
I don't need a bubble of positive or bulb of positivity. I need a laser. I don't need to be happy and try to appease every single person that comes in my bubble. As long
Yeah.
as the one that I'm after, if that's happy, then that's great. And that's how all actions work. Our body, all our genes, they're so precise in their approach. What we want to do in life, whether it's to reverse a health condition or become an Olympic gold medalist, those are all laser focus outcomes.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, um, so in that line of thinking, the last statement that I would want you to take home is only think and say of the things. Only think and say the things you want to have happened.
Wow. How
That,
cool is that?
that's it.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, I think we can all take that analogy you gave us and increase our laser focus on our intentionality and yeah, words are powerful, right? I mean, you can't deny it, and even the words we say to ourselves are really important. So, really appreciate you bringing that up. And Dr. Ace, I'm really excited to introduce you to the Go Wellness community,
Oh,
and
for sure.
and then we'll need to reconnect again. And then I'm really looking forward to bringing my community into the Ace My Health platform. I think it'd be great. So thanks so much for all the great
I'm,
work
I'm
you're
I'm
doing.
absolutely looking forward to it. I'm sure the community in Ace My Health, like all of them, will appreciate you and the Goal Wellness community, and everybody has a lot of the similar mindset. So I think it will be awesome. Like, really looking forward to it.
Awesome. So the best place for people to find you is acemyhealth.us. Is that the best website?
So that's the website for the educational platform. And if you want to reach out to me for any medical related things, then my clinic is aceih.com. There's a phone number. You can text on that phone number. And there's a sign up page if you want to sign up and create a patient profile. You're welcome to, and then we'll get you through whatever that you need to do.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks so much, and really appreciate all you for being part of our community. If you enjoyed the show and you have somebody that you think this would help just make their day a little better and their life a little better, make sure you share it. And we will see you guys next time on Unreasonable
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you, Regan.
Thanks, Dr. Ace.